What is up, YouTube fam? So I haven't gone live in YouTube in a very, very long time. So in this video, we're going to cover is how to figure out ARV, whether you do it in your local market or you do it in a completely different market. And also too is I want to show you how do you calculate and figure out rehab costs, right? For those of you who's new into the game, where you don't have any experience in constructions or any construction background, so you don't know how to calculate repair costs. So it's hard for you to come up with an offer to the seller. So I'm going to break it down for you and keep it extremely simple. So for those of you who don't know my stories, when I first got into real estate, I got into real estate at the age of 27. I'm 39 now. I've been in the game for over 10 years. So when I first got started, I didn't have any experience. I didn't have any construction background as well. But when I started out as a fix and flipper. So when I merged over to wholesaling, I already have the experience. So I'm going to break it down and I'm going to keep it very simple, all right, for you, so you can know how to calculate repair costs and figure out the AR, the V, and then in between, I'm going to try to answer as many questions as you guys got regarding wholesaling. So whether you want to make 10,000 or 100,000 a month, your boy King Kong can certainly show you exactly how to get that money. So first off, let's talk about ARV. But let me give you guys some shout out for those of you who's able to join me live, man. You like the hair, dude? Thank you so much, bro. Thank you so much, man. I got a cut in Vietnam. When I was going to Vietnam, I cut before I came back. Thanks for this, Kong. Dude, you're welcome, man. And I got to say, you guys, thank you so much for the love and for the continued support. I wouldn't be here doing what I do if it weren't for you guys, the love, the support, the shares, getting people onto the family. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. So for those of you who don't know, man, I just came back from Vietnam. And if you want to see some content where a lot of you don't get to see the other side of the world, right? So I think a lot of kids that are born here in America, that are brought up in America, they're soft, they're entitled, all right, and they take everything for granted, right? Because they don't know what hard work is and they don't know what struggle is. So a lot of them, when they come out into the real world, right, asking them to work more than 8 hours is a struggle. But if you want to get into the top 1 to 3%, my friend, 8 hours is just not enough. That's what they pay people to flip burgers. 8 hours, baby. So anyways, before we get into that, man, I want to say, dude, we got about 40 of you here. So if you want to check out those content, I went and did a couple charity and things like that, but pretty good. Go to my Instagram at Real King Kong. You can go check it there. But first off, let's figure out, how do you figure out ARV? So there's a wholesaling formula that you need to understand, because a lot of times if you don't know the formula, how can you make an offer to the seller, especially an intelligent offer? Okay, so figure out ARV is actually not that hard. And what I can do is, I think I can share my screen. So comment in a let's just say comment in a property that you're trying to figure out the ARV, and then maybe I can help you, walk you through it, and then show you how to figure it out. But the ARV is after repair value, which means what does the property worth after it's fixed up? So what you need to do is you need to get 3 comparables. So you need to get 3 comps, which is similar to the property that you're trying to put on the contract. Okay? And the 3 comps means you gotta match apple to apple. So bedroom, bathrooms, garage, those are all taken into considerations. Okay? Square footage are very, very important as well. Okay, so you want to, now when it comes to square footage, let's just say your property is 1,000, and then you look at the other one is 1,200 or it's 1,100, but it's also a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, right? Basically similar bedroom and bathroom, but the square footage is about 100 or 200 square feet off. I think that is okay. Just understand that maybe tack on an extra, a 10 or 15,000 or so, on top of that. Oh gosh. Okay, hold on. My landscaper just called me, Jose. Jose, hola, ¿cómo estás, amigo? Oh shoot. Oh shoot. Jose, are you there now? Okay, let me shoot. Jose, can you come back in about an hour? Okay, Jose. Look, hey, Los Santos. Muchas gracias. Adios. I'm supposed to leave a check for my landscaper, and I totally forgot. So 3 comps. So sorry about that, guy. And this is why when you go live, things like this happen. So 3 comparables, okay? And you want to make sure that it is within half a mile. So the closer it is to your target, the closer it is to your property that you want to put on your contract, the better it is. So typically you want to stay within half a mile radius. So let's just say here's your property. You want everything that was within half a mile. And then you want everything, man, these pen are so bad. And you want probably anything that's sold within the last, I would say 6 months or so. All right, to get a very, very strong comp. 6 month, half a mile, 3 comps. Very easy. And a lot of you, and here are some websites that you can use. We all know Zillow, right? And you don't want to go by Zillow's estimate. Typically, it's not correct. All right, so we got Zillow. There's a website called Trulia.com. There's another one, and all these are free. Realtors.com. Okay, Redfin.com. And then another one is iComps. I don't know if this is pay or not. Realtor.com, Redfin.com, and iComps.com, Zillow, Trulia, all of these sites are free for you to find comparables. Now, what we use is a pay, but this is like getting access to the MLS. So what I use is, here's the link. So we partner up with PropStreams, and this is my affiliate link with them. Just go to dealsformenow.com. All right, you get a 7 days free trial, but it's exactly like getting access to the MLS. You can be like an agent. You go on there, you put in your property that you want to get on the, and then you can pull everything that is sold, okay, within the last 6 to 12, however long you want. But once again, you want it to be within the last 6 months or so because it's fresh. Because if you go back 12 months ago, the market is way different. It has softened up. I think in a lot of market, right, it has dipped a lot. So that's why you want to stay within 6 months. The closer the date is, the better. So let's just say there's a comps that are just sold last month or just sold a week ago. Those are very, very strong comps. Those are probably the one that you really want to use. Okay. And what's nice about PropStreams, dealsformenow.com, is you can also go there and pull cash buyer. Any city, any states. Once again, it's like getting access to the MLS. Any city, any states you want. Solid, real cash transaction, real time. Okay? Now, let's see. I'm going to see if you guys have any question on comps. Are we good on that? And then I'll move to talk about how do you figure out ARV and make offer to the seller completely over the phone. Because for those of you who don't know, man, I've been virtually wholesaling for the past 5 years. We don't meet the seller. We don't see the property. We don't meet up with the buyer. Lon and I was in Vietnam for like a month. I mean, we can stay another 2, 3. It doesn't really matter if I'm in Vietnam or I'm here in the U.S. I got a team of 7 VAs. They do everything for me. They cold call, they filter, they qualify the lead, they put the prop in a contract, they negotiate with the seller, they sell the contract. All the VAs and all my VAs are from the Philippines. None of we don't need anyone local. Except for the guy that goes out and show the property, which is, I call that foot on the ground. They go out there, they facilitate the show between the seller and the buyer, right? To set up the walkthrough inspection for the buyer, you need foot on the ground. So pretty much that's it. But I was in Vietnam for like a month, and we're still closing deals. Things are still getting done. And some of you, man, you need to get away from the one man, one woman show. You need to overcome your mindset, thinking that, you're the only one who can do it, right? So you're stuck grinding 10, 12, 13 hours a day. So basically now you own yourself a job. So to level up and to scale up, you got to remove yourself from the day-to-day task. And that's, my friend, is by replacing and getting ARV, getting VAs, all right, into your company or employees. Some of you don't like VAs. You like to hire US employee. Great. You like someone local. Great. You want to have an office space. Great. Do you. Me, I personally prefer just virtual. I can open my laptop. So here's the thing that I use to communicate with all my VAs. And some of you might know, I can't even spell it, Skype. Skype.com. Can someone comment in the chat, because I probably misspell it. But I use Skype to communicate with all of my VAs. How much is it after 7 days? Only $97 a month. And a lot of you, man, if you whining and complaining about $97 a month, dude, you sound like a little bitch. So after that, it's only $97 a month. You can pull any data, any city, any states you want, any data you want. Pre-foreclosure, tax liens, tax delinquents, pre-probate, vacant, any city, any state, cash buyer, and you only pay $97 a month. And if you can't come up with $97 a month to pay for this data, so you can get one deal under contract that can make you 20, let's just say 10 to 20K. I mean, that is the trade-off. And if you whine and complain like a little bitch and saying you can't come up with $97, I'm sorry, my friend, but entrepreneurship is probably not for you. Like this game is probably not for you, man. You can literally go Uber one Saturday and can get $97 to pay for a subscriptions that can make you 10 to 20,000 a month. To me, man, like my whole thing is all there's two types of people that I hate. One, lazy people. Can't help them. They're just lazy. Number two is the excuse maker. They always whine, complain like a little bitch of why I can't do this, I can't do that, this is that. Like always. Shit, man. Can you also get ARV through other comps price per square foot? Unlimited. I mean, yes, you can, man. But typically, what you do, dude, is you go find comparables that are already fixed up. You can call a couple of realtor in the local area. So let's just say if you have a hard time comping that property just because it's special, maybe it's very different from everyone in the neighborhood, or maybe it sits on acreage, or maybe it's out in basically out in nowhere, right? In the rural area. Then you want to call 3 realtors that are active in the market, not 1, but 3. Ask them and then get comps from all 3 of them. And you should be able to get a comparables on what that property is worth. Okay? Okay. Now, any other questions regarding ARV? Any other question regarding figuring out ARV? Natalie said, I have a property. Okay, Natalie, put it in. Put in the address and let me help you find the... Well, Natalie put in the property address, and I want to know from you is what do you think the ARV of the property is? And I can tell you if you're right or you're wrong. And to see if we're on the same page. So while I wait for Natalie to do that, now let's talk about rehab. How do you calculate rehab costs when you don't know anything about constructions? When I first got started, I have no experience. You think I whine and complain like a little bitch? No, I don't. I go and figure shit out. That's what, dude, true entrepreneur, true hustler, people that are go-getter. Honestly, man, I've never met anyone that complain or whine. If they don't know something, they go figure it out and get it done. Like they do whatever it takes and whatever is required. If they want to get into a program or a mentorship, they don't got the money, they grind and hustle to get that money. They borrow money from somewhere. I mean, they get it done. That's pretty much it. But they never ask for handout or whine and complain. Once again, like a little bitch. So rehab costs. When it comes to rehab, it's actually not that hard to calculate rehab. But rehab, this is going, like, you're going to gain this over time. The more experience you get, the better it will be, right? I calculating rehab. But when you first start out, man, I'm just going to stick with and keep it very, very simple for you. So all you need to do is, if it's a light rehab, if it just need carpet and a little paint, right? We can do $15 to $20 per square foot. So let's just say the property is 1,000 square feet. So which means 1,000 times $15, so that's 15,000, right? If it's all it needs is little paint, little cosmetic, light, very light rehab. Now, what about medium? What about what if it needs a little bit more? A little bit more tough TLC. All right, then I would go with, maybe 25 to like 35. Same thing, 25 to 35 per square foot. And then if it's heavy rehab, I probably want to move between $40 to $60, depending on what state you're in. But 40 to 60 bucks. Okay. Now, a lot of you will be like, well, Colin, what if I use your formula, but then the seller lied to me? They said this needs to be done, that needs to be done. Dude, it doesn't matter. So let's just say you use the formula based on the information the seller is giving you. All right. And then you got the property locked up in a contract, and then your buyer went out there and your buyer said, hey, dude, you're wrong, bro. It doesn't cost $20,000, man. It costs $30,000. Right? Well, guess what, my friend? You now can go back to the seller, dude, and you can renegotiate. And then, but what you want to do is you want to ask the buyer, right? So how do you come up with $30,000? Because the buyer's going to be the one that's going to inspect the property. They're going to hire a contractor, or they're the contractor themselves, right? Or they hire an inspector. And then you can ask the buyer, hey, so where do you get $30,000? They're going to break it down for you. And based on that, dude, over time, the more you do it, the more experience you get. When you get a seller that say, hey, the roof needs repair, yeah, it's a 15-year-old roof, right? It needs to be maybe pressure wash or whatever it is. But you found out that, hey, the roof is destroyed, it needs to be replaced. Going to cost 10 G's, but you didn't know that. 10,000, right? So that's why you gain your experience through doing it a lot, and then getting the knowledge from the buyer. So the buyer's going to do the walkthrough, inspect for you, and say, hey, 30,000. You go back to the seller and you renegotiate. When I first started, I shouldn't say nobody told me, but the information on social media is not like it is today, where everybody is sharing their knowledge and their experience, and there's so much information out there. There's no lack of knowledge. It's just lack of execution. That's what it is. A lot of you, it's just lack of execution. If you don't know something, dude, go on YouTube, Google it, figure the shit out. But a lot of you be like, oh, I don't know, I'm stuck. And then you sit there and you don't do anything about it. You're just hoping that someone will come and help you out, answer your question, or help you move or hold your hands. Ain't gonna happen, man. Figure it out. Right? So all you need to do is go back to renegotiate. When I first started, man, I didn't know that you can go back and renegotiate with the seller. I thought that whatever price they agreed upon, if we can't do it, boom, cancel the contract. But I was wrong. You can always renegotiate. That's one of my advice to you. Best advice, man. So don't worry about putting property in a contract and find out that, hey, you know what, the price is wrong, or the amount that you put on the contract is wrong. It's okay. You can renegotiate with the seller. Call the seller. And if the seller lied to you, they know they lied to you. So you can call back, but you don't want to confront the seller, right? Nobody want to be like, because you don't want to get into an argument, right? So you just want to call them back and just be nice, be friendly, and be respectful, man. And don't be a smart ass. Hey, you know what? I sent my contract out there, Bob. Well, it seems like, Bob, there's a little bit more work than what we anticipated or what we talked about on the phone. So instead of 20,000, it's more like 30,000. And here's why. This, and all that information you got from the buyer. There you go. Okay, so can rehab costs be rough estimate and still work as long as you live enough space for you? Yes, correct. Yes. The answer is yes. Do you have to grab rehab property? Sonny, I don't know what you mean, man. You mean like typically when you target, do you target a fixer upper? Is that what you mean? The answer is yes. Because if the house has already been fixed up, man, majority of the time those are investors, or they already put a lot of money into fixing it up, and now they want to get retail value for the property, right? They want to sell for top dollar. And typically it's the one that's in needs of work because the owner obviously don't got any money to fix it up, and they've been letting it go. Not looking for a fixer up here. I still don't know what you mean, man. Easier flip, Sonny said. So Sonny, you want to get into the whole fix and flip game, man? If you do, dude, I highly suggest that you want to find something that's just cosmetic, and you want to be able to get in and out of that property, dude, within like, I would say no more than 3 months, bro, because the market shifts so quick, especially in today's market. It's very unpredictable. So if you're going to fix and flip, I highly recommend that you be very cautious on your numbers, and you want to be able to just to buy cosmetic. You want to get in and out within 3 months or less. In and out, dude. Unfinished basement needs work. Oh, let's talk about unfinished basement. A lot of you don't understand. So when I go out and I look at a piece of property, here are some key things I look for. This is when I go in to do my rehab. But here's some key things that you need to look for. Unfinished basement. So in my area, the basement height need to be at least, I think, over 6 feet. It needs to be over 6 feet. It needs to have an egress window, right? And it needs to have a closet to consider. You can turn that unfinished basement into a living space. And those, my friend, are gold mine. So let's just say you look at a house. If it's 1,200 square feet top, right? It's a 1,200 square feet finish at the top floor and has an unfinished basement. Oh man, this is a good question. Unfinished basement, which means there's another 1,200 square feet on the bottom. So let's just say at the top it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. You can basically finish the basement and turn it into another 2-bedroom, 1 bath, which means you just turn this house into a 4-bedroom, 2 bath, and you just increase the AR, the V of that property. But the key, my friend, is when you buy the property, you bought it based on 1,200 square feet. And this is why unfinished basement or gold mine. Because most seller will be like, hey, they don't count that, right? They just look at, hey, my house is 1,200 square feet. It's a 2-bed, 1 bath. That's how much I'm selling it for. Boom. So let's just say you bought it for 100K, man. You finish it. This thing could be worth like 250K. Right? Because basically you turn one house into 2 houses. That's a huge difference between a 2-bedroom, 1 bath and a 4-bedroom, 2 bath. So so this is one thing that I look for when I go look at a piece of property to add value to the property, right? Let me show you one more thing that I look for, and this, my friend, gold mine. So when I know I'm going off topic, because there's so much information here. I know I'm going off topic, but here's another thing that I look for when I go buy a house to keep as a rental. You know what you look for? The first thing I look for is rent. First thing I look for. Is it under rent? Is it market rent? Or is it over rent? Very, very important, my friend. And typically, my friend, if you target the mom and pop, if you target the mom and pop, which means they manage their own rentals, the tire landlord, they typically under rent the units. The reason why is because they think about, hey, the renters stay there for a long term. I don't have to worry about the turnover, yada, yada, yada. So they typically keep the rent very, very cheap for the renter. If that renter been in there for 5 years, let me tell you this. If the renter been in there for 5 years, if the market rent, let's just say the market rent is $1,000, right? They sometimes rent to that person for like $600 over 5 years. So every year on a rental property, every year you can increase your rent by $50 per unit in my area. In your, could be different, could be cheaper, could be a lot higher. But in my area, right, you can increase rent every single year per unit, $50. And that, my friend, is called inflation. Okay? So over 5 years, right, if you take $50 times over 5 years, which is not much, but imagine if you have 20 units, 30 units. Dude, raising rent just by $50, $100 can increase your bottom line, increase your net worth, your cash flow by a lot. And this number here, you guys, this number, so I always, when I look for buying a rental, I always want, man, if it's under rent, if I know it's a mom and pop, rent have been in there for 5 years, and they tell me it's under rent, I know it's a gold mine. Because I'm going to offer them based on their current rent. But I know that I can go in and rent it out for $1,500, which means your cap rate, dude, your cap rate's going to be a lot higher. Your ROI is going to be a lot higher, which means this is going to increase the value of your property by a lot. $500. That's a lot. So this is typically what I look for. When they tell me it's under rent, hey, market rent is $2,000, but since the renter been in there for 15 years, I've been getting only $1,000 rent from them. Boom. I know it's a gold mine. So when I negotiate, that's how I do it, based on whatever they currently rent for. But I know that the property worth, which is the current market rent, which is $2,000 per unit. Make sense? I hope all this makes sense to you guys. But let me answer a few questions, and then we're gonna wrap this up. Let's answer a few questions. You guys got some value out of this, or is this not valuable stuff? Because I see no comments. I see no engagement. Which tell me I either suck at this or what? Natalie said I'm finding cold caller, but not acquisition VA. I'm finding cold caller, but not yeah. So when it comes to, when you say acquisitions, Natalie, I call them the purchase manager, right? Because acquisitions, I don't know. I keep my vocab is very, very limited, so I don't use big word. I call them the purchase manager, which means buying the property, right? They purchase, right? Make offer. So, Natalie, when it comes to hiring the purchase manager, here's two things that you need. One, Natalie, you got to make sure that they have some sales background. In my experience, Natalie, it's extremely hard to find someone that doesn't have sales experience and then train them on how to sell, how to negotiate, and all of that. It just takes too much work, too much time. Hire someone that already had the experience, and then when you hire them, now all you need to do is you just need to train them on the vocab. What do we pitch to the seller? What kind of things do we say to the seller to get them to come off on price? And it keeps things a lot simpler. So and one more thing, Natalie, is that the purchase manager position, Natalie, is probably the last position that you want to let go of. All right. And it's the most important position in your business, in your company. Because that's the person that negotiates, closes the deals. And if no deal closed, no money's being made. How can I obtain contract to be used to put up and down the contract? Brian, I got you, bro. Here's what I need you to do, Brian. I need you, Brian, to text me. I'm going to give you guys 24 hours. I'm going to respond back to all the DMs or all the message. 1-206-208-0676. DM me the word contract. Brian, I'm going to hook you up with my contract completed for free. The purchase and sale agreement, the assignment agreement, the closing, the double closing, all of that contract for free, Brian. Just text me 1-206-208-0676. Oh, geez. 0676. Okay. Within the next 24 hours, I'll respond back. When wholesaling virtually, do you choose your market? Yes. So typically, man, before you go virtual, I highly suggest that you dominate your own market first. Virtual doesn't mean that you have to go into another state. As long as you don't meet the seller, you don't see the property, like you don't have to physically go there, you, my friend, are virtually wholesaling. Even if that property is 15 minutes away from you, be like, yep, I lock it up over the phone. I don't need to go meet the seller, see the property, boom. You're doing it virtually. But the reason I say dominate your own market first, bro, is because nobody, like, you know your market better than someone else's, right? In another states. So focus on your own market first. Once you have basically once you have dominate your market, and then you can move on to another state. And then your question be like, well, how do I pick a state? Well, pick the next states that's closest to you that you're most familiar with. That's what I would do if I were you. What do you do when you're doing virtual wholesaling and a buyer wants to see the property? Since 000000. Yeah, man. So basically the buyer wants to see the property and they want to do an inspection, a walkthrough on the property. So step number one, man, tell the buyer to do a drive-by on the property first. Make sure they like what they see. Because a lot of them, dude, are time waster and tire kicker. They've never seen the property before and they just want to set up a walkthrough. And all of a sudden, we have this happen so many times. Buyer that same day, they drove and saw the property. Oh, we don't even like the way the house look. Sorry, but I'm going to cancel the appointment. So tell them to do a walkthrough on the property, or to do a drive-by. Make sure they like the location. Make sure they like what they see, and then let you know if they want to still set up a walkthrough. But to set up a walkthrough is very, very easy. You get on the phone with the seller. Just tell the seller, hey, my contractor is going to be there to look at the property. And then you tell the contractor, hey, or you tell the buyer, hey, listen, you're there. I told the seller already that you're there on behalf of our company as a contractor to inspect the property and look at all the repairs. Please don't be professional. Don't discuss any pricing with the sellers. Any question you got, come back. Let's call us. We can chat about it. And then you always want to make sure that you have a foot on the ground, someone there to facilitate the showing, making sure that the buyer and the seller doesn't discuss price, try and go behind your back and all that bullshit. All right, what other question we got? 2 more minutes and I think I'm done. How do you double close? Man, I'm going to try to make this quick. Double closing is... Okay, double closing is like this. So basically when you wholesale, right, A is the seller, B is you, C is the buyer, okay? So all you do is you get the property in a contract, okay, from the seller, okay, under contract, and then you just assign it over to your buyer, right? But here is what it is when you double close. So when you double close, you actually becomes the buyer. You actually close on the property. And then at the same time, you now going to sell that over to your buyer. So which means as a buyer now, you got to take in consideration that there are closing costs and fees that you have to pay. So here's what I mean. So let's just say that you agreed to the seller that you're going to buy this property for $100,000. You got to understand that there's going to be roughly about 3% in closing costs. There's no realtor commissions, but there's excise tax, transfer tax, title insurance, all of those closing fees. So now you're not coming out of pocket as $100,000. You know that you're going to come out of pocket at $103. So let's just say that you're planning to make like $110. Just know that if you do a double closing, you're going to minus $3,000. So you actually only going to come out at $107. So you only make $7,000 instead of $10,000. Now at $100,000, it might seem like it's very small. But what if the purchase price was $400K and 3% of $400,000? What is that? The number gets bigger. So 400 minus 3%. That's 12,000. So that's 12,000 in closing costs. That's going to come out of whatever it is. So let's just say if you wanted to make 25K, on the deal, and then you end up doing a double closing, knowing that you're going to lose 12,000. So you only walk away with what, 13,000. And a lot of you will be like, well, why would you do a double closing? It's because if you were to make like 50,000 or to 100,000, like a big assignment fee, and you don't want the buyer to know, that's why you do a double closing. But you want to make sure that you take the fee in consideration, that 3% in closing costs. Makes sense? Okay. I mean, there's more to this, but I'm just going to explain it briefly like this because we don't have a bunch of time. I got to bounce. But let me take a few more questions. Let's take a few more questions here. What about when the seller won't give you? Natalie said, what about when the seller won't give price or range first? They would say, you call me, you give me a price. So Natalie, now you're talking about negotiation. And Natalie, nobody's better than your boy King Kong when it comes to negotiates. Natalie, I got you. So Natalie, let's just say that you're the seller. And the first question I asked you, you'd be like, hey, Natalie, what are you hoping to get for your property? You'd be like, I don't know. You call me first, right? So here's how you overcome that. So number one is, Natalie, when you ask the seller that, right, and the seller won't give you a price. Now, if you ask them multiple times, let's just say you ask them like 3 to 4 times, at least 3 times, and they just won't give you a price. Well, Natalie, what you do is you will give them a ballpark, right? At this time now, you have to throw out a price. You'll be like, well, I mean, I would say something like this, Natalie. I'll be like, Natalie, well, since you don't know what you want to get for the property, based on all the comps and all the research that we do, that we have done, know what property you're going for, what we have to do to the property, and all the work and headaches that we have to deal with. You know, we're looking at a ballpark, Natalie, between 100 to like 125. Does that seem like something that might work for you? So you don't just say a number, Natalie. You want to throw up like between 100 to 125 or 150 or whatever that is, right? And then what you do, Natalie, is you box the seller in, and then you're trying to get them to give you a price. Now that you already gave them a price, they typically would tell you if that work or not work or whatever price it is, and then you just negotiate from there. Unfortunately, Natalie, we don't have time on this video where I will show you exactly how to like negotiate and ask real questions to get the seller to like give you a price. Typically, Natalie, I get this, and this is something that I teach my VA, Natalie, to do all the time, right? Most sellers, like they will, you know, if you know how to ask the question, Natalie, they usually will give you a price. But if you don't, sometimes they don't. But there are ways to get them to give you a price first. There are ways. Okay. Why would the buyer care what you make? So the thing is, you know, buyers shouldn't care what you make, but there are buyers that do care what you make. Even though they will tell you, hey, you know what, doesn't matter what you make, man, I don't care. All of a sudden they hear you make, all of a sudden they hear you make 75K. Now they're getting greedy. Now they'll be like, oh, damn, dude. So you're going to make as much as I do, and I have to wait and I'm going to spend 6 months, and I'm going to take on all this risk, and I'm just going to make as much as you. There are times where I make more than the person who's going to buy, fix, and flip the property. There were a deal that we made $150,000 on it, and the buyer's only going to make $100,000. They're going to buy, fix, and flip the property, and they're only going to make $100,000. And this here, we end up doing a double closing. On it. And I think after everything, we lost about, I think roughly about $12,000 or so in closing cost fee, but we still walk away with $150,000. Or I'm sorry, $150,000 minus $12,000. But there are buyers that will care on what you make, right? And that's why you do a double closing. Okay, a few more questions, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Any other question you guys got? And so let me give you guys a little hack. So when I deal with buyers, I don't tell the buyer that I am the decision maker. I don't. I typically tell the buyer that, hey, I got a partner on this deal. So let's just say that you're going to tell the buyer you're going to make, let's just say the buyer find out that you're going to make $20,000 on this deal. Okay. In my market, this is an average deal that we do, right? This is our average deal. It's roughly about 20,000, but there are some market that this is a home run, right? Because the average deal is about 5,000, right? Small. Typically this market, man, you can buy house between 50 to like 150,000, right? So the average assignment fee is about 5,000 or so. And all of a sudden you came out of nowhere, boom, you said the assignment fee is going to be 20,000. So I typically say, hey, so the buyer's going to be like, dude, you make 20K. I said, no, dude, I got a partner in on this. We each is going to make 10,000. And there are costs and fees that we have to pay. We got marketing costs, we got employee costs, we got, systems, tools, right, that we use, time. But I typically said, hey, I got a partner in on this deal. So I don't make the whole 20. I make only 10, bro. That's how you do it. How long did it took you to find your first deal? How did you find that deal? So if you don't know, when I first started, I started out as a fix and flipper, which meant I actually go buy the property, fix it up, and flip it. Now, this is back in, I think, like 2012, which means 2009, 2008, the market crashed, right? 2012 is when it's slowly climbing out of the hole, right? Climbing out the rock bottom, right? So things were extremely cheap. There were a lot of foreclosure on the market. And at that time, wholesaling was not like as big as it is today, where a lot more people know about it. In my area, there was not a whole lot of wholesale as well. But despite all of that, man, I make a lot of offer to on-market deal. There was a lot of deal that's on the MLS. And what I did was anything that was 60 days or older on the market, and anything that said, fixer upper, investor friendly, anything that comes off known that, hey, this probably needs work, right? I would call the agent up and I would make offer. I would just make 50% less. Literally, I would just submit offer, submit, 50% less. And then this one realtor agent called me back and said, hey, dude, your offer is very offended. And he was like this and that. And I said, well, you know what? That's where our starting point is. Well, we got cash. We can close quickly, buy the property as is, yada, 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 right? And then I said, well, what's the least the seller would take? And then he came back and talked. He's like, okay, let me talk to the seller, this and that. And I said, hey, we have room to negotiate. We're willing to come up as long as the price makes sense. And then all of a sudden we went back and forth and we locked that property under contract. We bought it for $69K, I think, 69,000 or 63. I can't remember exactly. But it took me 6 months to get my first deal. And the reason why, I can tell you right now, knowing what I know, the reason why it took me so long, because I don't know how to talk and negotiate with the seller. I suck. And I'm sure a lot of you on here, man, you don't know how to talk and negotiate. And that's why it took me 6 months. If you want to know if you're good or not, record your phone call and listen to it again, and you will see what I mean. You listen to it again. You'll be like, oh my gosh, horrible. And then I hire a mentor. And then he taught me how to talk, how to negotiate, how to position myself, all of that. And after I hired my mentor, 3 days later, that's when I got my first deal. Long story short. Brian said, can closing costs and fees be taken out of profit for the sales of the home? Brian, you mean when you do a double closing? Dude, this is a long answer, man. So when you do a double closing, typically here's what's going to happen, Brian. Man, dude, okay, over time. So once again, when you do a double closing, Brian, so let's just say you have no cash, right? So there's a company called transactional funding. Well, what they do, Brian, is that they specialize in these kind of funding. where they fund double closing deal, which happened within like the same day, right? And they make a profit. So let's just say you don't have 100K to close on it with the seller. You can use transactional funding. They will fund the deal for you. But the title company cannot take it out of your assignment because you actually buying the property. There is no assignment. But Brian, there are title company. It depends on what state you're in and what title company are willing to do this. But you can ask them. Majority of the time, they do, which means they can use the N buyer fund. So let's just say you don't have 100K. You're going to sell it to the buyer for 125, right? The title company can use the buyer's fund to fund the whole transaction. That, Brian, is like the best case, best way to do it. So ask your title company if they are willing to do that. So which means they're going to contact the buyer. Buyer's going to bring in 125. They're going to take 100,000 for you. They're going to close it with the seller. You sign it with the buyers, and boom, you get your 25 or minus whatever the closing cost fees and all that. But instead of you getting transactional funding and getting charged and getting penalized, right? There's a fees that you have to pay, right? But hey, if you make 50K and you have to pay them 5,000, is it worth it? Hell yeah. If you pay them 10,000, you still make 40K. Worth it? Yes, dude. Right? So you can't penny pinch. Think about the bigger picture. Think about what you're making and what get the deal done instead of worrying about how much other people are making. Make sense? Because the reason I say this, Brian, is I'm not saying it's you, but there are people out there that are like, oh my God, transactional funding is charging me, they're taking me 2% of my money. But dude, they get the shit done, dude. You need this to be done. You rather pay 2% or lose on 50 G's. Come on, man. Shit. Right? And then, or best case, they use the end buyer's fund the whole transaction, and there you go. You guys, wrapping it up. But hey, before I go, for those of you, if you need, boom. If you're still like, hey, Colin, I'm confused with this whole wholesaling. I've been going at this. I still can't get my first deal done. Or maybe you have done 1 or 2 deals, but you're like, hey, Colin, how can I start closing consistent deal every single month where I can predict my income, right? You're like, at least this month you're going to close a deal or 2 deal and be able to scale or up or whatnot. Here's a free training that I created for you, whether you're new or experiencing the game, done a few deals or not. Go to WTMclass.com. It's a 15-minute free training that I break down the step, the process, show you exactly how to get into the game and how to do it. Complete it for free, no string attached, WTMclass.com. That's all the time I got today. You guys, thank you so much for every single one of you that are here with me. I truly hope that this can add some value to you and hopefully give you some guidance and put you and steer you in the right directions. But once again, nothing works if you don't. Dreams don't work unless you do. If you want something you never had, you, my friend, have to be willing to do things that others won't. All right? And before I leave, I want you guys to remember this. It's very, very important. Very important. You only got 2 choices in life. Number 1 is to get rich. Option number 2 is be a little bitch. Here's what I mean. You either be the boss or you work for a boss. The choice is yours, my friend. Until next time, you guys, take care and ciao. Oh, boy.